Good evening. Welcome to Wednesday evening editions of Detroit in Black and White. I know you guys didn't think I was going to be here on time.
You like the dramatic entrance.
I like the dramatic entrance. What can I say? But listen, thank you guys for being here this Wednesday evening. We want you, those that are watching, we want you to like, subscribe, and share. Like, subscribe, and share. Join in on the conversation in the comments section. So, without further delay, I'll introduce the co-host. Adolph is not here today. He's doing well. I talked to him today. He's doing just great, but he's still on the mend. So we have this evening Jim Nardone, former chief of police in Trenton, Michigan. Hey, Jim.
Happy Wednesday. Happy winter.
Winter? It's not winter yet.
It feels like it to me.
Well, the heat is on. And good evening, Allan Lengel of Deadline Detroit, former writer for the Washington Post. Good evening.
Good evening from Detroit City.
I know. So both of you guys are wrapped up. See, I have on a short sleeve shirt today, but I had a big sweatshirt on. I had a big sweatshirt on. I came in and took it off. So it is chilly out, but I don't want to say winter yet. I really don't. I really don't.
How about all our friends out there, Vanessa?
So, hey, Janet, Kenneth Reed, Derek Henry, Dominique Richmond, Janet Overall, Tracy Hub, Willis Martin. Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Thank you. And thank you, Janet, for sharing. You always do what we ask you to do, which is awesome. So, what we're going to talk about today. Hey, Eric Brown. Bonjour. What we're going to talk about today. You want to start, Allan?
Sure. Well, I just want to say we're closing in on the election time. It's interesting. And then we're going to be starting a whole election cycle with the Senate and the governor's race. Adolph wrote a piece in Deadline Detroit today. And I mean, we've talked about Garland Gilchrist back and forth. And I think if anything, part of the thing is Mallory McMorrow has sort of been designated as sort of a rising star. She's young. She's very vocal. She knows how to get attention. But and Garland Gilchrist is a little bit more low key. But, when you look at it, the Democratic Party needs stars of all different, colors and ethnicities and stuff like that. And so there isn't a deep bench here in Michigan as far as Black candidates. And the Democratic Party should be figuring out ways, whether it's, for governor or senator. It seems like the Senate race might have been a better spot for Garland Gilchrist, but I think in the end, who knows? But they should be mindful of not tossing candidates aside like that.
So fancy me this. How? And I'm just throwing it out there. How can you, on one instance, say, "Hey, McMorrow is our girl. This is the Michigan Democratic Party. This is our girl. We want you to support her." And I'm not saying whether I'm supporting her one way or not. I'm just throwing this out for conversation's sake. How can they do that? And she doesn't have a lot of experience. You have the lieutenant governor who has 8 years of experience. But how is it that you can have a large group of people that stand on the right side, left side, and the back side of a candidate who says, listen, it doesn't matter whether it's a D or an R. I'm running as an independent. You even have people say, you know what? It doesn't matter. What matters is the right persons. So if what matters is the right person, why is she the right person without the experience as opposed to a person who has 8 years experience?
Well, I think, the thing is also, I think Haley Stevens is more of a favorite among the party at this point. But, for Senate, for the Democratic race, and I agree with Eric that, Garland Gilchrist didn't want to run for mayor, but he would have been a great candidate, and he would have had a pretty good shot at it. He would have had a lot of money behind him from some of the powers that be. But he's it's like John James keeps shooting for the moon, and he finally decided he had to run for Congress. He barely won for Congress. He shouldn't have won the first time. And the second time he won by a little bit more. Again, the Democratic Party let Carl Merlinga out to dry. But I don't know.
Yeah, I'm glad you said you don't know, because you really didn't answer the question. Jim, do you have any idea, how do you reconcile this? How is it on one instance that these are members of the Democratic Party that supports a candidate that's running for governor, says, hey, we don't care that they're running for as an I. It doesn't matter if he's a D or R, and even though he won as mayor of the city of Detroit as a Democrat, and a lot of his career, he was a Democrat. I don't know how you reconcile it, because I really do believe in it. Really should be about the person as opposed to the DNR. But how can the Democratic Party reconcile this? That is why a lot of voters, African American voters, are like, you know what? The Democratic Party busy talking about the Republican Party, but you're just as bad. What do you say, Jim?
Well, let's back up just a minute. First, Mayor Duggan's either going to be a brilliant politician, or he's going to screw it up for everybody else. We don't know the answer right now. If he wins, it's a great campaign, a tactical, well led, well executed campaign. If he becomes the governor, I still think that he's still a long shot. But let's just go back to McMorrow for just a second. I don't have a beef. I don't have any
Right.
issue with what Adolph said. Everything that he said, I'm basically on board with. But we still need to let the voters decide. As Allan said, Haley Stevens is the insider in this campaign, and McMorrow has a shot, but to me, it's Haley Stevens' campaign to lose. So it may not matter what McMorrow says. I understand she had, she was on the House, so she's in the Michigan House, right? Not in the Senate. She's in the Michigan Senate. Whichever body she's in, she had her moment, and she had a very effective speech. But that's one speech, right? She's the maverick. She's the, if you will, John McCain of the Democratic Party right now, I guess. So we'll see if she's going to knock off, the insider, and I think she's got a lot of work to do to knock off the insider. So
a long race. I mean,
yeah.
it's more than now. It's a year away. A lot can happen over that year, but including how much money, how well it's handled, and stuff like that. So it's still an open race. I think it's not anybody designated for sure. The governor's race, I think Gilchrist has got a steep hill to climb. I think the favorite is still Jocelyn Benson for the Democratic Party. And I think Duggan, we'll see. I think what will happen, what you'll see is if Duggan is not climbing in the polls by next June or July, the Democratic Party is really going to put his head in a vice and try to get him to drop out, so to clear a path against a Republican candidate.
G Money and I think it was Kenneth talked about a couple of police incidents. I hope we get an opportunity to talk about those. Thank you for your comments.
I need to talk about that. That's one of my outrages.
And the Chiefs' reaction to the shooting. And there's a Deadline Detroit story on it, which I think is interesting. Right. And I want to give you my perspective from a former police chief and somebody that every police chief's involved in politics. Hopefully, I can give you a little insight into that. Difficult situation that the chief is trying to make his way through.
Yeah. So my question still lingers out there, because I just don't understand how the party can, support somebody that's inexperienced and say that this is a superstar, and you have other people in the party, and yet you want the African American vote. You want their support, and they continue to do that. And I think that too plays a role in why a lot of African Americans are like, you know what? I'm not I'm not even participating because it's not really an election. It's really a selection by the powers that be. So we'll see what happens. So you want to start about the cop that shot in the car of the woman 6 times and she ended up in the hospital? You want to talk about that?
That's G Money Hollywood, and Dorian had something too. That was Dorian and Kenneth had something. I think
and we'll get to that, and then after the commercial, we're going to bring Beverly Watts. She's in the back.
Okay.
Allan, why don't you start with that and talk about the story that you wrote
about the cop? Well,
yeah.
I think basically what happened is that an officer pulled over this woman. He said you were doing this, and I think he claims it was for tinted windows. Something was wrong with their license plate, and she disputed it and said, I want a supervisor. Well, he didn't call, which is one of the rules or whatever of the department, is that when somebody asks for a supervisor, you grant that, and it's a way of de-escalating the situation when you and the motorist, you as an officer and the motorist are going at it and bumping heads. A supervisor should come in and kind of go, all right, let's sort this out. Well, he never called a supervisor, and she called 911 at some point, and they still didn't send anyone. Then he had backup, and so they tried dragging her out of the car. They couldn't get her out of the car. One of the backup guys sprayed her with pepper gas. She was able to close the door and take off. About a minute later, they boxed her in, which I guess is another issue about violations of the department. They boxed her in. And the original officer started saying, "Get out of the car," and I think she was scared, and she tried to drive off, and he shot into the car, a moving vehicle, which is again, one, you're not supposed to chase for a traffic stop. 2, you're not supposed to shoot at a moving vehicle. 3, he should have called the supervisor. So what had happened originally. And something happened where, in all likelihood, the officer lied about it.
Absolutely.
They went after his video stuff and they reviewed it because on Sunday, Chief Bettison started saying, look, the woman refused to produce her license or proof of insurance or registration. And he started saying, look, you have to do that. Let me tell you, people, you have to do that. The next day, he was like, well, she did produce all that stuff. She did ask for all these things. And so I think at minimum, the officer gave misleading information and probably lied about it. And so then, on Monday, Bettison was throwing the guy under the bus, saying, this guy's screwed. I'm asking that he be suspended immediately without pay. We're sending a warrant request as procedural to the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office, and there could be criminal charges. So, look, we just saw today the Illinois cop the sheriff's deputy, who went to a woman's home and she was boiling the water. He told her to put down the water, and then he shot her, which is just insane. I mean, it wasn't like she was like they were like 2 feet apart. He was like across the room, It was just so. I mean, there are situations, and Jim can speak to it. I mean, when you're in a situation where maybe you get all hopped up or whatever, but I'll defer to Jim on this now.
Yeah, go ahead, Jim, and then I'm going to chime in because when I read it, I was furious. First of all, you saying that she tried to run you over with the vehicle. Why weren't you standing on the side? Why are you standing in front of her vehicle? That woman could have died. You shot her 6 times? Are you freaking kidding me? And clearly he lied.
So she was hit 6 times?
Go ahead. She got shot 6 times for a traffic stop.
Here's my position, and I'm not going to defend anybody for shooting somebody for a traffic stop, but you're talking about policy violations instead of criminal. And what surprises me, and this is a perspective that I'm coming from. The police chief is in a very difficult position right now. First of all, his mayor is leaving, right, in the next couple of months. he's faced with a new mayor who's come out publicly to support him. He's kind of in a very difficult situation. There is no excuse for shooting anybody, but I want to go back to what happened. I think Allan, how the story evolved, and that's Mr. 1213 is exactly right.
Exactly, I agree with him. Yeah,
but when it just happened, the police chief said he defended his officer, and 2 days later he has some more facts, and he is no longer defending his officer, going to the point of policy violations. And I'm going to tell you this: there's still an investigation that needs to take place, and it's not going to be done in 1, 2, 3, or 10 days. It's going to probably take 4 to 6 weeks to have it'll take a month before they submit that to the prosecutor's office if they are pursuing criminal charges. So there is no excuse. She was not a threat. It doesn't appear on its face that she was a threat to their lives. So they had no excuse to use deadly force. However, let's wait and see what happened. Let's give the chief an opportunity. I give the chief credit because when it first happened, the first reaction of any police chief is to stand up for his people until he knows any different. And then he received some further information. He came out and said, wait a minute, it's clear that there are policy violations. Well, he still hasn't proven those policy violations. They seem obvious to everybody, but there's a process, and police officers also have due process. I don't know anything about the police officer. I don't know anything about the incident other than what I read today. And my first reaction is deadly force is absolutely not acceptable in this. The use of deadly force, firing a firearm in this particular case. A couple things that Allan said that I think we need to back up at too. And she has no right to a supervisor, right? When you get a driver's license, there are certain things that you need to do, right? You have to give a police officer the information. I've seen so many videos in the last 3 or 4 months of people fighting with police officers for no good reason. It always ends bad. So I don't know what happened in between the first time he asked for her driver's license and he decided, or whoever decided, I don't even know who fired the shots. Did he fire the shots?
He did.
The original
did.
officer that stopped her?
Yep.
Yes.
No, well, I think Todd Bettison was saying he was saying basically she had the right to ask for
Absolutely.
She does, but there is no law. There is no legal responsibility.
There's a policy. There's a policy in the department.
That's a DPD policy. So
absolutely.
So
and
he or she that fired the rounds is clearly violating a policy. You know, what's the penalty for not calling a supervisor? But it's not a legal requirement.
No, it's not a legal requirement, but it's a violation of the way they proceed.
Sure.
Their manual or whatever.
I do want to weigh in, but we got to shoot to commercial. I know we have a guest. Can we come back to this conversation after the guests?
Well, maybe the guests want to talk about it since they're police commissioner running.
Okay, that's great. So we're going to shoot to commercial, have our guests come on, and then we'll resume the conversation. Detroit Black and White, our Wednesday evening edition.
Hello, Detroit. This is Deputy City Clerk Andre Gilbert, reminding you that early voting begins Saturday, October 25th, and runs through Sunday, November 2nd. You can cast your ballot at one of our 9 early vote centers from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. In this general election, we will elect the mayor, city council, city clerk, and other city officials who will shape our future. To find the location nearest to you or to learn more, visit us at detroitmi.gov/elections or call us at 313-876-0190. I'd like to personally invite you to our Party at the Polls block party on Saturday, October 25th from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. at 2978 West Grand Boulevard, as we proudly kick off early voting. Let your voice be heard and vote early. Our future is in your hands.
We're back, Detroit in Black and White, our Wednesday evening editions. I want to read some of the comments and give a shout out because we've had people join since we started at 8:30. Angela Beatty, thank you. Good evening. Janet Overall says her people are loving the show. Thank you so much, Janet. Says, hey, good evening, everyone. Kenneth Reed says, he had that BS on his mind talking about the police officer before executing that sister. He didn't have his body camera on, which was a problem off top. Ken, if you took the words right out of my mouth, that was something I was going to point out. Eric says the Michigan Democratic Party only care about Black votes, not Black candidates. He also says McMorrow and Stevens are both a no for him. Stephanie Jackson said good evening. She also said the city of Detroit will be writing a check. She's absolutely correct. I agree with her. Kenneth Reed says he enjoyed Adolph's article in Deadline Detroit concerning that race and how the Michigan Democratic Party routinely overlooks qualified Black candidates. Mr. 1213 says good evening. G. Money Hollywood says he's curious to hear everyone's take on the white Detroit police officer shot. Oh, we're talking about that.
And I had no idea that it was a white officer or male or female. Does it say that in your article, Allan? I don't think it's
I don't know. I don't know the race of the officer. To be honest.
Oh, he's Caucasian and she's Black.
Oh, right.
I got that from an officer.
Nothing. G Money, there's nothing. Sorry, there's nothing wrong with asking for a supervisor. My distinction is the difference between legal and policy. Is all I'm getting at.
Yep, I got it. Dewayla says, good evening, Dewayla. Willis Martin says, the Democratic Party says that there are how many sexes they can't define what a woman is. Makes competent in women's sports. Laughable. Jill Sheridan says, hello. Governor Whitmer probably will endorse the last person standing and not pick one over the other. Let's see. Who else? Dorian Denard, he said the cops should have been charged instead of just suspended. Well,
it's still early.
See what happens.
That's 2-3 months away. It's possible.
There's an investigation, and he may be charged, he may not be.
But. Right. Stephanie Jackson says, so DPD needs to be policed. Mr. 1213 says Chief Medicine went into damage control after seeing the video. Sandra Massey is her name. That's the name of the woman that was murdered by the police officer, and the police officer was found guilty. Stephanie says integrity is not a hard position. Karen says, good. These yahoos must be held accountable. Death is not the penalty. Is not the penalty for having no license.
How is the victim? Do we know?
I'm sorry?
Do we know how the victim is? Number one, that's the most important thing. How is the victim? Does anybody know?
She was released. She was released from the hospital.
Thank God she died 6 times. That's crazy.
She was treated at the hospital. She was sent to the detention center after her treatment.
Right.
And then Todd Bedison released her and said she won't be charged. Well, she's going to have a big payday coming down the road for her.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of lawyers lined up for that one.
Absolutely.
All right. So we've got Beverly Watts. Why don't we bring her on first, and then we'll bring on Teron Haynes after that. Beverly, welcome. Beverly she's a former Wayne County official, and now she has BME Consulting. She's a political consultant, public affairs, marketing person. Welcome. She is running, and she's also a pretty regular guest on the week that was for Deadline Detroit on Fridays. But Beverly is running as a write-in candidate for the 5th District for the Detroit Police Commission. Yes. Beverly, welcome.
Hi. Hello, everyone.
How are you? Good to see you.
Good. Thank you for having me on. I listen to you guys and watch your show regularly, of course, and I love everyone's perspective, especially the audience participation. I think that's increasingly important.
And why the police commission? You don't have a law enforcement background. You are a resident of Detroit, obviously. Yes. What makes you want to have a hand in the police commission?
Well, actually, this is going to be where I continue my career as public servant. Because basically, sometimes I think the forest and the trees, we're both equally important, but I don't think you have to be the tree to be in the forest. I'm glad that I don't come from law enforcement background, because this is a civilian oversight board, basically where we're helping the chief of police and his team set the budget, policies, rules, and regulations, and citizens' complaints. So basically, I believe that the reason I want to lend my experience now, because I've been working for City of Detroit and Wayne County for nearly 20 years in executive leadership position. My budget was almost equal to the chief when I was running the largest department in Wayne County, about $350 million, 600 employees. So I can hit the ground running when you're talking about budget and citizen complaints. And Jim, I worked with a guy when I first started my career at Wayne County. I was a deputy, he was director. His name was Joe Nardone, wonderful guy. Learned a lot from him. So I definitely know about citizen complaints, citizens improvement, engagement. You need that, especially the topic we're talking about right now. This is an outrageous hotbed story. I want to make sure that I can lend my experience and my passion for District 5 in City of Detroit. I grew up here, went to Detroit Public Schools, went to MSU. I was heading my way out of the city, but 7 years after I graduated from Michigan State, I had a chance meeting with the former Mayor Coleman Young. He was speaking to a group of youth of ours, and he asked us a question, and he asked me a question, and he said, what are you going to do now that you have your degree? Now, you know, most of us, when we get our degree, we think we can rule the world and everybody needs to come and get us and give us a six-figure job. You know, we don't have enough sense to know we don't have work experience at that point. But the question he posed to me was, why would you leave this community or this state and go to another community that didn't raise you? You know, why would you take all of your education and your passion and go to another state? That there started me on my path with government and my passion for my community. So I'm glad that I had that conversation with him, got a job with the City of Detroit, worked my way up through the ranks, was appointed to the Assistant Parks Director in 2003, worked my way up through the ranks at Wayne County to be the first female director of the largest department for Wayne County. So my passion for not only Wayne County, but the City of Detroit, which I've never left, has always been there. I've lived in District 5 since the early 90s, and I like to be a part of a solution. So I want to lend my experience with budgets, citizen complaints, working with others to come for a positive resolve and hit the ground running. I think that's what separates me from others who are trying to be a write-in candidate for Police Commissioner District 5 to have proven results. This particular case we're talking about right now, outrageous. One of the things I want to do is continue to have reform and trust. We got to build that relationship with the community. What Chief Bedison did this week, it helped because that's going to help build that trust. Policies, I would have liked to, whoever gave him that information with this particular case, I would have liked them to give him all the facts before he initially came on TV to side with the officers or just say it's still under review or investigation. And that goes all the way up to the ranks, not just the officer, but the officer's supervisor, the officer's commander and lieutenant, all the way up, because that's important. In order for the community and the police department to make our community safe, we got to have that relationship. And just like any relationship, whether it's personal or professional, it comes with trust and transparency. So one of my things that I want to do is just make sure, first of all, let me just say this. I've been going around this district for 4, 5, 6, 7 months now, just campaigning for this position. And I'm just amazed that most of the individuals don't even know this position exists, let alone what the responsibility is of a police commissioner. I got to change that, because if I'm successful to be elected next Tuesday, I'm not just coming to the table to work with the others and the police chief. I'm coming also with District 5 being an advocate. They got to know this position exists. They got to know what the role is. So that way we can make true reform. It's not going to be just about me. It's going to be about all of us, the community, working together with the police chief if we want our community safe again.
Beverly, Vanessa, we saw each other this past summer, a couple of months ago. Exactly. Why a write-in campaign?
Great. I'm glad you asked that question. This position, just like any other, requires some signatures, roughly around 300. Probably January, February, I had massed about 600 qualified names. Until I got a call. I am one of 6 children, the youngest, and I have one brother. He's a veteran. He lives in Memphis, Tennessee. My sisters and I, we received a call from him late January, early February, and he doesn't mind that I tell and share this story. He was diagnosed with stage 4 prostate cancer. At that time, he did not have a good outcome from the doctors there. And so I pushed it on pause because I flew down there and I was there with him for about a month because I said if my brother was going to go through this journey, what the doctors was telling him, I was going to make sure he didn't do it alone. We lost our parents, both of them, in the last 3 years. They were together 70 years. So it's just my siblings and I. 4 surgeries later, my brother's still with us. He's still not out of the woods. But he found out what I did, put it on pause, that I was running for a police commissioner and didn't file. And so he told me that he wanted me to come back home because I'd always been passionate about City Detroit and my career. And he said, I want you to run. And I said, brother, I've passed now the filing date in April. He said, well, so what? You know, we're Watts and we know how to work hard. You just got to work a little harder. But if you're really, truly passionate about Detroit and bringing the community together and being a public servant, what's hard work? So that is why I am not, because by the time my brother had his 4 surgeries and got the diagnosis, it was beyond the filing date.
Okay.
How many people are in the 5th district who are actually on the ballots?
Oh, the number keeps growing, because one thing I learned, I think it's up into October, you can write in. So I think it now is probably about at least 5 or 6.
Okay.
Everybody's a write-in candidate. You will not see anyone's name on the ballot for District 5.
It's nice to see you, Beverly. I hope
Yes.
you do well. But I want to. One of our viewers has a comment. First, we lost badly. He's talking about the Spartans this last weekend. Go green, go white. On a serious note, good luck as a write-in candidate. What would be the first thing you would change if you become a police commissioner?
First thing I want to change is awareness of people knowing that this civilian oversight board exists. The main things I want to jump into is do an assessment of their budget. Look at these citizen complaints. It's a ton, thousands of them. I do know, looking at their budget over the last 3 years, I can tell you, and this case just happening now is going to add to that, over $60 million have been paid out on settlements and just lawsuits alone. Can you imagine what we could do with $60 million? I mean, technology, we're talking about salaries, we're talking about community engagements, the programming. So I want to really look at that budget, but really I want to tackle these citizens' complaints, because that's where a lot of the money is going on these lawsuits and body cameras not really being turned on, just looking at everything, because it's going to be about the dollars.
Weren't the body cameras part of the oversight, the federal oversight? Wasn't that one of the plans that they had to have in-car and body cams, and they weren't operating during this event? Is that true?
Exactly. And so there are rules and there's rules. So you can always say, and people come up and play the policy game. The policy is we have to turn on the body cam. So then do the flip side. If I don't have it on, what's the consequence?
Right.
And that's what
that was the point I was trying to make a little earlier about policy violations. When you just start talking about policy violations, you're not firing somebody for not calling a supervisor. No. You're firing somebody for reckless endangerment or attempted homicide or
exactly.
Well, that's the point.
I want to hit the ground. I want to hit the ground running with my other commissioners and working along with the police on the consequence side, because we also know that body cams could be off. You have a lot of policies that say, oh, it wasn't turned on, but I want to know there's checks and balances and there's consequences to this, because you're talking about a traffic stop. Perhaps somebody didn't have a driver's license or they didn't have insurance. You're really going to risk not only your life, that person's life, and if they take off down the street, an innocent life. How many times do we hear that innocent people get killed every time? And what people need to realize that if you take one life, you're not just taking away that one life, you kill the complete family.
Absolutely.
The family of their loved one. So the police officers got to know, and you should know this, Mr. Nardone, 2 things they have to do: protect and to serve. Protect and to serve. Yeah,
deadly force does not look like there's any.
Not.
On his face, there's no excuse for trying to use deadly force.
So a policy is, yes, somebody can ask for your supervisor. They have a right to.
Yes.
Should they? That's another question. But the policy says, yes, they do. And what you're supposed to do is call your supervisor immediately.
Right.
And I will add that in my experience, in my cases recently, everyone who has asked for a supervisor has come on the spot. They've complied. They've called for the supervisor, and the supervisor comes right there immediately. So I didn't understand what was on this guy's mind when she asked for a supervisor. Why did she have to call 911? It was just it escalated out of control.
Yes.
It really did.
And Ms. Moss, I can tell you this, that my previous experience being a director and having a staff, and everybody knows, it's almost like a parent would know all their children as well. So I always call it the breadcrumb effect. When I was over the road agency there, I could kind of look at and see where the most complaints were coming from and where they wasn't. And I want to make sure that 10% didn't overshadow the 90% of the good employees. But I don't know the background of this officer, but I guarantee you, if you're taking and you are for a traffic stop so freely shooting someone 6 times,
a moving vehicle,
the supervisor, yes, there's got to be a breadcrumb in that person's background.
Absolutely. A moving vehicle. That's rule number one.
Another thing is you have to wonder if somebody's violating all these policies in front of the other officers. What would they be doing if nobody was watching?
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
But we have another guest on, but we need to wrap it up. But I want to ask, and then we'll go around the horn.
This is too soon. I thought I had it half an hour.
Oh well, we have one of your competitors in the background. We'll give you 5 till.
No, I'm teasing.
So the question is, how would you rate Todd Bedison, and would you recommend that he continue on?
Yeah, I've been, in fairness, I've known Todd Bedison and probably the last couple of police chiefs because I've worked with City Detroit and then I've worked with Wayne County. So everything I've done, I've had to work with the 43 local municipalities. I was aware of Mr. Nardone, down in Trenton because we have a large park there. I worked with Wayne County, federal and state, MDOT. So most of them I know. When it comes to Bedison, what I do like about him is that the transparency. Because I don't like anyone, and I'll be honest with you. You got to be accountable for it. I did as a director. When you had a bad apple, I'm not going to try to cover it up. You got to be accountable, and you got to own it. You got to be truthful with the public if you're trying to serve it. So I do like that about him, especially this case here. So absolutely, I would recommend him to the next mayor that's going to come in January 1, because I think if I'm a police commissioner, what I'm looking for, trying to bring upon trust, transparency, bring respect back. I'm going to need a police chief and work with him that's going to be honest and take accountable when things don't look like, his officers did everything according to the policy. That's the kind of individual that's really going to help us bring reform. If we want our community safe again, we're going to have to do the right thing. And one of the right things is writing me in.
Okay. Well, thank you, Beverly, for coming on. We appreciate you coming on. We'll see what happens on Tuesday. We're gonna shoot to a commercial, then we're gonna come back with our next guest. Thank you so much for being.
Thank you so much for allowing me to come
Beverly.
on.
Thank you for your insight.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Hello, Detroit. On Tuesday, November 4th, a general election is scheduled to elect the mayor and other city officials. Please return your absentee ballot by mail, drop box, or at the Department of Elections. Polls open at 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Election Day. You can ride the DDOT buses to the polls for free. To find your polling place, visit our website or call 313-876-0190. So let your voice be heard and vote.
Welcome to Detroit Black and White, our Wednesday evening edition. If you're watching, like, subscribe, and share. Tell all your friends about the greatest show on this YouTube streets. You can catch us on all social media platforms. You can catch us every Wednesday, every Friday from 8:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. and every Saturday morning from 10 o'clock a.m. to 11 o'clock a.m. Next, we have our next guest who's also running for police commission, Mr. Teron Haynes. How are you, Mr. Haynes?
I'm good. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm good. How are y'all? It's nice to meet you.
Good. Let me read a real quick little bio. Teron Haynes is established public servant with almost a decade of service. Haynes served in both the United States Army and for the Detroit Police Department within a civilian capacity. He currently is employed as a forensic technician, crime scene investigator for the city of Detroit, assisting in processing and solving some of the city's most important crimes.
Yes, that is me.
That is you. Well, why the police commission? What's driving you to try to get on that board?
Yeah, so I'll tell you, I'm a write-in candidate. Nobody in District 5 is on the ballot. It was important for me. I was activated through a Bridge Detroit article where started listing off all of these districts that had nobody on the ballot. And then I started to question, why is that happening? What is the problem here? And a lot of it is because there is not much visibility for the Board of Police Commission. They obviously don't have a salary. They're not like city council. They get stipends every month. But in a lot of ways, there's this lackadaisical or laissez-faire nature with the board and how they handle a lot of things, including their meeting times and where they're meeting. So there is a concern with the efficiency of the board. There's a concern on about who's on the board. Last year, we had almost 25% or around 25% of our board meetings go into quorum or not meet quorum, excuse me, because you had commissioners not showing up. You had commissioners going to the meetings and then leaving the meetings. And if you can't meet quorum, then the meeting's just closed. So that's a big problem because you have citizens who take time out of their day to voice their complaints, which is incredibly important. But then when you have those meetings closed in 45 minutes within the session, that's a big problem. So obviously I read that article and saw that I needed to get active. It's important for young people to be active, especially in this climate when we're seeing a lot of the young people kind of sort of stay at home, right? Obviously, I do feel strongly about the position, but a lot of this has become, I'll tell you a quick story. I was at the first event I went to was at Bridge Detroit candidate forum. And at the end of the forum, this woman came up to me and was like, I'm not in your district, but I'm extremely proud of you because people like you, young people, need to start becoming more active. And that again activated me. The reason why this position is important to me is because I have my bachelor's degree in forensic science and justice studies. So on that level, this is important. My master's degree is in public administration, government and policy. That's important to me on that level. But also I currently work for the city of Detroit in the Detroit Police Department. And that's extremely necessary, right? People ask, is that a conflict of interest? What would be the problem, right? I often tell people, right now we're looking at an era of this lack of transparency between the Board of Police and the citizens, DPD and the citizens, and nobody's transparent with each other. And I'm here to break the mold on that. When I often tell one of the big points of my policy, because I'm one of the only candidates, probably the only candidate you'll hear that actually has a policy, is that when I say that there are officers who have administrative positions that are soaking up taxpayer dollars and they can't police because they're incapable of policing for one reason or another, the police department can't lie to me. They can't lie to me and they can't lie to the citizens because I know the names of these officers. I see them constantly. And that's a huge problem that should be corrected by the Board of Police, that should be corrected by the Board of Police Commissioner and the commission should force the hand of the department.
That's a Vanessa question. Giglio. Vanessa.
So my question to you is, I want you to weigh in. We've been talking about the incident that occurred and with the 6 shots fired, if you will. What are your thoughts on this story?
Yeah, it's extremely important, right? I think we can go up and down the ranks and figure out what went wrong in this situation. I was in the military. When I was in the military, when things happen on a lower level, you had command taking responsibility, and that doesn't happen within the police department. When a situation like this happens, a lot of the times you'll have the chief of police or some commander come on and say that officer did wrong. But what needs to also be said is that we did wrong in our training. Our culture is not correct. And the Board of Police needs to do a better job in making sure that comes out if they have that within their responsibility. And we need, as citizens, as a community, to force the hand of the police officers in the Detroit Police Department to actually address the culture within the police department. These kind of situations don't happen within a vacuum. This is actually an issue that DPD has had every single year. We see this happen constantly over and over again. And we get the same reiteration from every single police chief and officer. Not to say Chief Bettison is doing a terrible job, but it's the same thing over and over again. So I think it's terrible, but we actually need to address the real problems, which isn't just that police officers need more training. That's not always the issue. DPD has a lot of training that they go through right now. And I'm not willing to give the taxpayer dollars, put them back into, give them more money, the department more money from taxpayer dollars just to give more training because they already have it. What we need to do is address the actual problem, and that's the culture of the police department.
I have a question real quick. When you've been working in the police department now for a while, is there stuff that you just say, holy shit, I can't believe they're doing it this way. This really bugs me. I wish I had some influence over this. What kind of things are you seeing in the department that really bug you?
Yeah, probably the biggest issue that I see is the lack of transparency with the DPD manual. Has anybody on this chat read the DPD manual besides me?
No.
Exactly. That's the issue.
But policy as a former police chief, I can tell you policy is usually common sense, and you can't fire a firearm at a moving vehicle. If someone asks for something, someone asks for a supervisor, the best policy is to call the supervisor. The best policy is to have your body camera on. So you don't have to explain what you did because it's all there. All those things are common sense.
Absolutely.
What I was trying to say earlier is policy doesn't get people out the door. Right. Criminal actions get people out the door. And Detroit, unfortunately, has had a history of some officers, and it's just a small number of officers. And it didn't start yesterday. So Chief Bettison's responsible for everybody, just as the police board is responsible for the police officers.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
This didn't happen overnight.
So what I want to say regarding the policy is the lack of transparency is that nobody reads the policy because it doesn't exist for people to read.
What you're saying is nobody's holding people accountable for the policy.
True, that as well. But I mean, the citizens don't have access to be able to read the policy so that they know right from wrong with the police department, and that's an issue. Sure. One of the things that I say, here comes my cat. She's a kitten. Sorry, excuse me. Yeah. So one of the issues that I've been hearing, while campaigning a lot, is that we don't know what we're supposed to do with the police department because we don't have access to their manual. And my issue with the department is we don't need to know how you're executing your search warrants, when you're executing your search warrants or your raids. As a community, we don't need to know that. But what we do need to know is how are you policing your body worn camera, your facial recognition, all of the tools and resources that you're asking taxpayer funding for. We need to know how that's being used and what is your policy for it. But the department doesn't want that to exist. And I also, on a similar vein, my primary policy initiative is that DPD doesn't take physical fitness tests. They are largely out of the loop of fitness in both physically and mentally. And everybody kind of cracks up when I say this, but it's a unanimous decision. It's unanimous right across the board when I'm speaking to people that they are confused why DPD doesn't take physical fitness tests. Or mental fitness tests yearly. They qualify through the academy physically. Then you have officers who have been on for 10 years and they don't take fitness tests. That's crazy. I was in the military for 5 years, and I took physical fitness tests twice, sometimes 3 times a year.
I'm going to push back on something you said, if I could.
Oh, absolutely, yes.
You talked about transparency, and you made a comment that the police department doesn't want that information out there. I think that's kind of what you're saying. I'd be surprised if the policy isn't posted somewhere on a website. Are you sure that the DPD policy on how to interact with residents is not available to the public?
It should be available through the City of Detroit website, not some website just out of the blue.
That's what I'm asking.
Yes, it should be accessible through the City of Detroit or Detroit Police Department. They should make that accessible. Let me just finish this one song. Often when I speak about the community and DPD, I state that olive branch needs to be given by the police department. If they don't extend that olive branch to the community, then that level of trust that level of trust that doesn't really exist will continue to erode until it's worse, and that's a problem. The Detroit Police Department needs to be more upfront about how they want to engage with the community.
They call it accreditation, Mr. Haynes, and accreditation is going on all over the state of Michigan.
But DPD isn't accredited. DPD isn't accredited.
I understand.
There are so many cities in Metro Detroit are accredited, and this is something that Detroit wants so bad. They try to get it every time the cycle comes around, and there's a reason why they don't get it. And part of that reason is because the citizens refuse to cooperate with the department, and that could be that level of cooperation could exist, but the Detroit Police Department has to do better with how they communicate to the people.
So, Mr. Hayes, we have a question. I mean, there are so many participants this evening, so many questions. Mr. 1213 says that you have great potential and you're going places. G Money Hollywood wants to know, what real strategy do you have to bridge the communication gap between the people and DPD? And how will you deal with officers who are there just collecting a paycheck with no purpose?
Yeah, so two-part question. Let me try to answer that as well as I can, right? So as far as the communication, when we door knock and we canvass to get people to write my name in District 5, that's huge. It's important. When people see my face, when people hear my plan, they love it. They want to get into it. They want to write my name in. I appreciate it. But the canvassing can't stop there. Commissioners also have an effort. They have to make that effort to engage with the community. People barely know who their commissioner is. People don't know what the commissioner does. People don't know how they vote. And that's an issue. Albeit the meetings are posted online, they're posted on YouTube, and you do have access to it in that way. But outside of that, how is your commissioner getting to you, right? So what I want to do is work with District 5's police precincts. So in District 5, we have 3 precincts. Mostly it's the 3rd, the 7th, and the 10th precinct. We need a collaborative meeting with all of them at a location that is not maintained by the Detroit Police Department or the city of Detroit. And we need to come collectively, monthly, and talk truthfully. So the commissioner, the department executives and command level staff, and the community needs to continue to stay engaged with each other. And that's what I try to do. Every day when I canvass, I pass out these cards. On this card is my personal phone number and my email address. So when I give these cards to people, I say, in or out of office, you will have access to me. We do not need to have elected officials who disappear after January 1st. We need them to stay involved. So that's what I would do. And the second part, to answer the question, we have to get these officers off of the police department. That is what we need to do. We need to put these administrative only jobs back into civilian hands, and we need police officers to police. Police officers need to police. It sounds very simple, but a lot of people don't understand it. And those people are in the police department. I don't need a police officer pushing my paper. I need a police officer doing investigations. I need them on the streets. We can get civilian. I know elders who can push papers, who need jobs, who want jobs. I know young people who want an internship for the city and get employment through that way and learn critical job experience to get them on the market. We can do so many different things, create different jobs, and we still are staffed for those police officers. So we can just put them back on the streets and increase our police force that way without just giving them more money.
Okay, well, Mr. Hayes, we want to thank you so much for coming on Detroit in Black and White and telling us all about you and your campaign. If people want to reach you in the next few days, could you give our audience your information?
Yes. So I am on Instagram at Teron Haynes 4 BOPC. I'm on Facebook, Teron Haynes for Border Police Commissioner. You can also get me on my website. It's just TeronHaynes.com, TeronHaynes.com. You can contact me on my website. At the very bottom, there's a contact me, and it goes straight to my direct email. That will always exist throughout my time on the Board of Police Commission when I get elected. So stay in contact with me. I want to stay in contact with you, District 5, and the city of Detroit, always, anytime, any day, because this issue of public safety has to be addressed, and it has to be a 24/7 problem. It can't just be that the Detroit Police Department wants tools and tools and tools and money and money and money. No, we have to address it at the root. We have to work with city council. We have to work with the mayor's office and giving more funding into these community centers. We need more libraries in Detroit. We need more public events, and that money that could be spent, taken from the Detroit Police Department or recycled and resourced back into other city departments to actually address the deterrence of crime is what's really important. That's
quick
what
question.
Thank
Quick question, and then you're from the St. Louis area originally. How did you end up in Detroit?
I joined the military at 17. I went overseas, came back to North Carolina, ended up finishing my degree at the Methodist University, and then I came here and started working for this great city. I've loved it ever since. The city has a great charm to it. Yeah, I'm no native Detroiter. I'll tell people that anytime, but the reason why I'm here in Detroit, why I chose to be here in Detroit, is because I believe in it. I believe in the city. I believe in the people. I believe in its growth. We're at a critical juncture right now where Detroit is going to be on the national platform for a good this time, for good, not for the bad. And if we want to continue that, we actually have to put people in office who are going to further that, push that momentum. And we're not going to get that by capitulating to the same rhetoric that we get every single election cycle. It's time for new voices, new people. Every single time we get into an election cycle, we get the same thing. Let's get new voices and new people. And I'm the new voice. I'm the new person. I'm the right person.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Haynes.
Good
God
luck.
bless you.
Thank you. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for perspective on all that.
I appreciate y'all. Y'all have a good night. Thank y'all.
Have a good one.
So we've had two spirited,
Two great candidates.
great candidates in the
Great
same
candidates.
race. You know, for those people that are watching Detroit in black and white, and those that live in that district, man, you have a hard choice. And I've only seen two of the candidates. I don't know who the other candidates are for District 5, but one of the things that he touched on, as well as Ms. Watts, is that a lot of people don't know what the police commissioner does, what the commission is responsible for, and people are just not engaged. And I think he hit the nail on the head when he says that, you know, there needs to be more transparency, that there needs to be a situation where you're reaching out to people, people can reach out to you, because quite frankly, I believe the reason why we don't have people on the ballot is because people don't really know what the commissioners do, and really don't. And because they don't know, they really don't care.
I'd like to hear Chief Bedison's position on policy being out there in the community. I'd be shocked if he had a problem with sharing that information with the community. I think probably it's just part of the process, and hopefully he will get to that point in the process where he shares these policies and he educates the people of Detroit what you can ask for and what you can't ask for out on the streets. There's something missing there. And he made a point. Detroit is going to be in the news basically for good things. And I want to say Teron Haynes and Beverly Watts are two people that bring good things, and they want to contribute to their community. I'm just disappointed that they're both running for the same seat.
Yeah,
Right.
me too.
Yeah.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah, it's my district 5. So.
Yeah, me too. So I do want to acknowledge some of our commenters, co-host, Ms. Sheila. She says, people say Mr. Hayes has the right energy. Kenneth Reed wish he had that both of them had been on the show sooner. He also indicated that he has a great future. Mr. 1213 asked if the particular police officer's insurance policy can be sued by the victim.
I'd say that's probably a no.
Yeah. And no, Jim, from an HR perspective, with a background in policy writing, violating policy does get people out the door.
That was kind of my point from the beginning of the show, is it takes 5-10 years to fire somebody for policy.
Yep.
For policy issues.
Yep. We have a viewer, Ms. Sheila, who wants to thank Mr. Hayes for stepping up to help his community. We also have Karen Winston. She said, good luck. Mr. 1213 said, Bedison is doing a good job. Willis Martin said, hopefully Detroit is not automatically hiring police that were fired elsewhere.
That's scary, and that's
Uh,
another
That's
issue.
very scary, very scary. Jill Sheridan made a point earlier. She said, "Agreed. Sheriff who always says the officers right before investigation has begun doesn't sit well with citizens."
And it shouldn't sit well with citizens.
Absolutely.
You need to get the information. I wish he would have waited before coming to the defense of his officer and then attacking his. I wish he would have waited for both of those. But,
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he's in a tough spot.
Well,
Right.
unfortunately, he probably was misled, and
That's probably true too. Yeah.
I mean, he did not see the video until the second day where he had. He seemed pissed because he was like, basically, screw this guy, man. He's definitely,
So he said, "Screw this guy."
He's a straight shooter. Todd Bettison does. My guess is he wants to do the right thing. So.
Well, and listen, being the chief of police, as you indicated at the beginning, at the top of the show, Jim, it is a political position. And being the chief of police, you have to have a relationship with people in the community. And I think one of the things that stood out for him when he was selected as the chief of police is that he had a lot of support from the community. So I think it was important that he looked within, found out the information, and said, "Hey, I owe this to the community. We are going to turn this information over to the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office." Well, it is 9:31. We've had a good conversation. We had a whole lot of comments. I'm sorry if we didn't get to all of them, but we tried to identify everybody. But you could join us again on this Friday, Detroit in Black and White, 8:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. We'll see you then. Have a good one. Bye.